where some states like Sokoto have large human capital, and then we have security personnel. We have a lot of people that will be drafted into, for example, the state police, if we were to create that. Don't you think that imbalance might be a reason why the federal government is not instituting?
Why must your incapacity to develop resources and talents in your state weigh me down, who have the more capacity to develop such things? If I am more creative to generate the kind of resources I need and plow it back into my system, so why must your own incapacity to do the same slow me down? Why must I wait for you? Because in an attempt to try to make everybody develop equally, this is where we are right now. We have failed. We are not making much progress. And yet, if you go to the National Assembly, there has been more demand for creation of states. Why? You still want more states. Yet the ones we have, we are screaming that these resources are not enough. Some people cannot develop. So why do we do the things we do? Okay. Selfish reasons.
Selfish reasons. Mr. Bibin, I believe, there's this saying, I'm trying to properly phrase it, that he who wears the shoe actually knows where exactly aches, him or her. Now, talking about the state police, if you were a governor of a state, for example, you know how, the security challenges, exactly how it pans out in your state. You should be held responsible for, your terrain, in quotes. So don't you think that the governors will be held responsible, more responsible, if they're allowed to control, the security situation in their states, respectively?
The question is rather funny. Who is the chief security officer of a state?
Okay, supposed to be the governor. if I say that, because they have the IG.
No, the governor is the chief security officer of the state. So, in other words, they are looking for constitutional powers that is to be written down and all that given to them. But directly or indirectly, they are the first people that take charge of their state. They are the chief security officer of their states. So, and they are the same people that are there now. If you have your state, you have security agencies working within the state. Your own ability to coordinate them, for them to be responsive, it also boils down to you. One, all the states receive security votes, which they are not accounted for. Can they tell us specifically what they have been doing with such funds?
Okay. And they're even clamoring for more.
For more. So what we are saying is that there are some regions that are more vulnerable than others. It's well understood. But in as much as you have security agents within your agencies within your state, you can create funds that can support their operations. You can give them vehicles, improve on their package, welfare package, apart from what they are receiving from the federal government, to make them more active. Most of these police formations within the country don't have facilities. The type of guns they are using, they are 19 First World War gun.
Not compared to
what the armed robbers are using, the bandits are using. How many of the police force that are serving in these states are properly trained?
But then it still boils down to the true federalism, because the state governors they rely on the federal government to provide those ammunitions and all of that. They might just relax and hope, maybe do a lot of writing, and then this might also be politically inclined in the sense that whoever is making the signing and drafting the laws might just be favoring his own party or his own side of the states. I'm trying my best to pass it across. I believe you understand what I'm trying to say. The person in charge of, for example, if the executive arm of the government says, I've seen your proposal and I'll look into it, and it takes a whole lot of time, to pass that, into practice. How does that affect the state governor? Because he might not have the resources to put that in place in the state. So it's really a tricky. I think if they are given the full power to do that, they'll do that in a split.
For instance, let's look at the current case in Nigeria. There are some, I don't want to mention governors or some states. There are some states that are doing well.
Okay.
They are receiving they are receiving monthly subvention from the federal account. They are also receiving security votes. And we can see practically that some of these things are working. Some are able to get bikes for security purposes. They are able to increase the allowances from the state cover. What you know that shows that those these state governors have passion for security, and you can see it. An individual with a passion is more than 1 million with just interest. So if the state governor has passion for security, there is no way he will not renovate or improve their package. And a motivated workforce is a productive workforce anywhere in the world. The same police in Nigeria, when you take them outside this show for West African duty, they are being rated one of the best in the world.
Yeah, well, currently,
the same people.
Currently, we are fought in providing security for the UN, in peacekeeping.
So we export what we don't have, and we import what we have. That's the challenge with Nigeria. We have adequate manpower. We don't use them here. But when they go out for peacekeeping, they perform well. So it all boils down to leadership. If the state governors utilize their security votes effectively, all this issue couldn't have come up. Because you'll be able to some extent have structure. If the fund is not sufficient for this month, maybe they are giving about 12 to 30 million or 50 million, 150 million per month, you should be able to say, okay, in the next 12 months, these are my structures, these are my plans. They don't have all this one, most of them don't have it on ground. Because the security vote, nobody asks for it. Most of the states don't have all these structures. If you ask Chief Executive Officer, to some extent, to ask to explain, to give you the details of the security formations in his state, some of them cannot tell you.
Okay.
Cannot. Because they don't have that passion. But if they do have that passion for security, they will be able to tell you, to some extent, on average, I have so number of police in my state. It's your own principal, major primary assignment. Security of life and property first. So if the state governors don't have passion for the job, they rather are fighting for personal interest, I think we will not be able to get there.
No, but talking about if we were to implement true federalism, I believe that the federal government will be left to breathe. You know, it's more like a breather, because now the states governors, they are responsible for virtually everything, especially security. You know, and then there's competition among the states, because I believe that's what Nigeria actually loves. You know, competition. Talking about the telecom industry, you know, talking about a whole lot of industries. Once there's competition, every state wants to do better, especially because of election. So don't you think that when it's introduced, there's some form of, you know, competition between the states, especially before election comes up, Mr. Dennis?
He made some. There are some concise points that we have to take into consideration. The fear over time for state police has been the likelihood of abuse. And this evolved out of politics. The average politician feels that his opponent, if he is in power and they are state police, he will use it against his political chances. Now, over time, it's obvious that that may not really, we now have on our hands a real security issue. Because what we see with the Boko Haram thing just started as if it's a child's play, but exactly. Here we are. It's become an international issue, It's becoming a national embarrassment. And so we have to look inwards and begin to appreciate and look, just like he pointed out earlier, why must people look at themselves as political leaders when you are holding public office after you've won an election? Your political leaning and considerations should become secondary. Your primary should be delivering valuable leadership. Right, so but for the police force, see, sometimes I just look at it, it goes beyond just the thing. If you have worked with the police in Nigeria, it's an amazing thing. I wonder how the kind of police force we have, we think they will contain the kind of 21st century crimes. If you realize, you realize that some of the criminals or issues of criminalities we experience now are no longer just those days of banditry and minor. These are trained young men and women in some cases who have the same qualification you and I have, or even better sometimes. Yes. And when you have the rate of unemployment you have in the society, the temptation for those who do not have the capacity to hold back and endure is high for them to go into crime. And so the crime you are dealing with 10 years, 20 years back is no longer the same now. The sophistication you can see is growing. Now, you therefore have to look inward and say, this kind of police scene we have been practicing over the last 40, 50 years, is it the same we've practiced to deal with the situation at hand? The way we've been doing about business, just like you pointed out, state executives not having a full grasp of the security situation in their state. Would we continue that way? Well, we don't want to mention him, but you know that in Lagos State there is a lot of effort, deliberate effort by the chief executive to get even the private businesses involved in fighting crime. The truth is that every successful country or state in the world is a police state. The police have to be right. Whatever it takes to get it right has to be done. Today, if it continues the way you see, so many companies in Nigeria are not able to attract foreign interest any longer. It may not have reached the dimension of causing a national fear, but that is happening right now. I know of several companies that have had projects to do with foreign partners, and they decline to come into Nigeria. Because the reports out there is so terrible that people are scared. And very soon, it begins to affect other areas of investment.
Let's look at the Boko Haram issue, for example. What do you think can be done? You know, because we've seen that the security chiefs recently, you know, they've been reshuffled. You know, we had some of them coming in and, you know, most of them going out. You know, what do you think? Do you think that's a way forward? Do you think that's a right step in the direction by our president, Goodluck Jonathan? That's talking about the NSA chief.
Well,
Andrew Azazi.
Azazi out.
Yes.
That's okay.
That's okay. In.
Exactly.
Well, I believe that each and everyone has his own gift, has his own given talents. We can't say this person is better until we see results. But I still believe that the changes we need has to do with a personal change. All of us as Nigerians must be committed to change. These Boko Haram people are not spirits. They live somewhere. They buy food somewhere. They transact business somewhere. They live among people. So the challenge is that people within or around them perceived to some extent that they are being marginalized, or they are not being taken into consideration, or they have been used as political tools and abandoned. So I think that's why the challenge is become multitasking, because these people live within the community, and this community have been seeing them to some extent carrying cans or suspected movements. You see them, you suspect that what's happening in this house? Why is this man carrying this sort of thing? But they won't talk because they feel that it's not their business. Until all Nigerians take security issue as a personal issue, the challenge will continue. I remember one of the former American presidents said in one of his inaugural speech, I can't remember his name to be precise, he said, if we fail to take good care of the less privileged people among us, it will be very difficult for the government to protect the rich few.
Okay. That's brilliant.
So, with respect to what I have said, if you look at it from all perspectives, you will discover that the major challenge is, one, I have said earlier, poor leadership. Two, it boils down to our system